Lord be with you. A reading from the Holy Gospel according to Mark. A leper came to Jesus, begging him and kneeling, said to him, "If you will, you can make me clean." Moved with pity, he stretched out his hand and touched him and said to him, "I will be clean." And immediately the leprosy left him, and he was made clean. And he sternly charged him and sent him away at once and said to him, "See that you say nothing to anyone, but go show yourself to the priest and offer for your cleansing what Moses commanded, for a proof to the people." But he went out and began to talk freely about it and to spread the news. And so Jesus could no longer openly enter a town, but was out in the country, and people came to him from every quarter. The Gospel of the Lord. Before I proceed, friends, join me in congratulating a young lady who offered herself to God over a decade ago. So maybe Sister Memory, if you can rise. So she's now 12 years fully committed to this profession. So we celebrate her. So we'll bless her together with the other sick during the course of Mass. In 1981, a gentleman called Peter Cropper, a British violinist, was invited to Finland to play at a special concert. And so as a special favor to Peter Cropper, the Royal Academy of Music lent him a 285-year-old violin to use for that concert, which is called the Stradivarius violin. This rare instrument takes its name from a Grand Master, an Italian violinist called Antonio Stradivari. So it was made of 80 special pieces of wood, and it had 30 special coats of varnish with it. And its special sound had never been replicated till that moment. And so when Peter Cropper got to Finland, an incredible nightmare took place, because as he walked to the stage holding this 285-year-old violin, he tripped and fell, and the violin broke into several pieces. He was dejected, full of shame and embarrassment. He flew back to London in a state of shock. But a master craftsman called Charles Bearer agreed to repair this violin, and he took endless hours on it. In fact, weeks and months trying to put it back and to repair it. And finally, he put it back again. And that dreaded moment, the moment of truth, arrived. What would this violin sound like? And so Peter Cropper, holding this repaired violin, came to the front and began to play it. And those who were present could hardly believe their ears. Not only was this violin excellent, It actually sounded better than the original one. And you got a standing ovation. For in that culture, just to get a standing ovation is good enough. But it was more than 10 minutes ovation. People appreciating the sound that came from this instrument. And then he began to make a worldwide tour, playing this instrument. Night after night, this violin that everyone thought had been ruined drew standing ovation from audiences across the world. It was put together again. It was well. It was better. It was beautiful. Friends, in today's reading, gospel reading, we hear about the leper. In that ancient society, no figure was ever lonelier than a leper. People were afraid of lepers. In fact, I think we're just coming out of the COVID years. We were very much afraid of COVID. If your friend visited you and they said, I have COVID, even if you love them, you would prefer that they didn't visit you. And what actually happened to me is I was very close to a family, and they tried to look for a priest elsewhere. They couldn't. And then they said, please come and pray for our mother. And she had COVID. So I covered myself with everything that I could. And they said, she's in the back seat. She's actually just died. Can you pray for her? I want you to picture that. Now, this was a leper. Nobody wanted a leper. Everyone hated them. And they actually hated themselves also. If you go to Psalms chapter 31 and hear how a leper describes themselves, they say, those who know me are afraid of me. When they see me in the street, they run away. I am like something thrown away. Friends, it is to this tragic leper that Jesus reaches out lovingly and prays for them and touches them and heals them. This despised person, this broken person, is the person that Jesus reaches out and heals them. I'm very conscious this morning that as you come here to this Mass, maybe a tragedy has struck your life when you're going through a difficult patch in your life. Maybe a loved one has died, somebody close to you. They may have died now, or they died some time ago, and you're trying to heal from it. Yesterday, I attended a memorial supporting a family. Maybe they're here. And their mother passed away maybe 20 years ago, but I could feel the tension. 20 years seemed so real, so present. The emotions were very high. And I could tell that this is a broken family. Maybe it's a friend who betrayed us. Somebody we trust, and we brought them closer. They know a lot about us, but they left us broken. Again, when I was working somewhere else, and somebody came to me, they were working with a friend, helping young people, young adults. And because they thought this is a friend, they began to share all the secrets about their marriage, about everything. And when the relationship couldn't work, the friend began to go out there spreading the news, the intimate details about this lady's life. And what crashed there is not the news itself or the bad news, because she accepted that. but the fact that somebody close to them, somebody they trusted, would betray them to that extent. Maybe, friends, it is an accident involving a friend that left them an invalid, or an accident that involves us, but that made us an invalid. It could just be the loss of a job. We just woke up to the news that you are no longer needed here. It could just be about being an alcoholic. We don't want to be an alcoholic. We are fighting this demon, but we don't seem to be succeeding against this war, against this battle. Friends, misfortunes strike. And when they strike, we are overwhelmed with grief and with anguish. It affects us deeply. We are crushed. We are plunged into a state of shock. The story of the leper I just narrated and the story of the violin tells us something deep and profound, which I want you to have today. No tragedy is so terrible that we can never survive it. No calamity is so crushing that we can never recover from it. And no disaster is so destructive that we cannot pick up the pieces and start all over again. We need Jesus. We need this craftsman, this master, to fix us again, to make us whole again, to repair our broken lives. And let me tell you this, Jesus can do more. Not only can he repair you, but he can even make you better than before. But you need to believe in this. I was reading of a story of a young man, 7-year-old little boy. There was an explosion, and so his legs got damaged, got broken. And the doctors even considered amputation. And a friend to this boy's mother approached the mother and said something like this, very, very terrible, very mean. She said, "You might as well face it. Glenn is going to be an invalid for life." But the mother said, "I refuse to take that. My child will be well again." And she prayed and prayed and prayed again until the boy left the crutches, could walk on his own, but could even run, but not only run fast, but be good at it. And then the boy joined college and took up extracurricular activities and chose sports. Not only was he now running to prove people wrong, but he was actually running because he was good at it. And soon, records began to crumble behind this boy's driving legs. Then came the Berlin Olympics in the early 80s. Not only did the boy qualify for 1,500 meter, he actually broke the Olympic record. And the following year, he broke the world indoor record. This guy, who was supposed to be an invalid, became at that time the fastest man in the world. His life was broken because of this explosion, but he came back stronger and better before the accident occurred. Friends, it depends on how you look yourself You might think you are an invalid. But I think like the violin, like Glenn, the Lord will make you whole again, will put you up together. And I like what St. Paul says in the second reading today. And I think those are very, very, very powerful words from St. Paul. He says, "We are often troubled, but not crushed. Sometimes in doubt, but never in despair. And though badly hurt at times, we are not destroyed. For this reason, we never become discouraged." And somewhere else in Romans chapter 8, verse 28, the same Paul says, "We know that in all things God works for good with those who love him." Whatever situation you may be facing, God works for the good for those who love him. And for me, the readings today really, friends, say this. They say, no accident is so disastrous that we can never be repaired, as the violin was repaired. No illness is ever so destructive that we can never be cured, as the leper was cured. And no tragedy is ever so devastating that we can never rise from it again, as Glenn did. And I want you to leave these words for you, words from a poet who says this, and I feel that those are very powerful words for us. He says, "You don't have to worry. You don't have to be afraid. Joy comes in the morning. Troubles, they don't last always. For there is a friend in Jesus who will wipe away our tears. And if your heart is broken, just lift your hands and say, I know that I can make it. I know that I can stand. No matter what may come my way, my life is in your hands. My life is in your hands, Lord Jesus."